If you're a young entrepreneur, anything like I am, you've definitely experienced an instance where you have such a great new idea for a business, or you hear about a new strategy for a business on an online video or in a book that you'd like to try, and you get super excited about it. And you do a bunch of research and you watch a bunch of videos and you're jumping out of your socks to get ready and try this business out and dreaming of the millions of dollars it's going to make you and the fancy sports car you are going to buy once it's done. Your initial excitement and research probably starts out something like this. You have this great view. You can see that mountain off in the distance. You're going to summit it. It's going to be amazing. It's beautiful from a distance. And then you start working on it. And the execution turns out to be more like this. You're lost in the deep foliage of what it is to start a business. You don't know everything you should know to start that business. And you get discouraged. You lack motivation. You get a lot of burnout because you have this idea and you can see the vision. You see other people who have done it or who have done similar things. But then you feel lost. You feel like you don't really have the traction you wanted to have. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think that's happened to me and the things that I've tried to do to combat that and to overcome that feeling of, holy cow, I feel so lost. I have this great idea. It's exciting, but I have no idea where to go with it. So enjoy. So as I kind of alluded to in the beginning of this video, there's 4 stages, in my opinion, to what it's like starting a business. The first stage is an idea, and you get excited about that idea, and you're just rearing and you're ready to go. The second stage is the research. You're like, well, in order for me to make sure this is a good idea, let me do some research. So you look at the money of it. You look at, maybe some failure stories of people who haven't done so well with it. You look at some success stories. You're listening to videos and podcasts and reading books about this business model. You're getting all of the information that you're going to need to eventually start this business. The third phase is critical. And in my opinion, it's the one that, due to people skipping it, causes this sense of being lost and getting burnout on an idea. And that's the planning phase. So many of us fail to put together a concrete, stepwise business plan. We're going to talk about that for the remainder of this video, but that business plan should be focused on the 4th phase, which is the execution. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where things are actually going to go down. In the end of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that 4th phase, but we'll leave that until after we talk about the planning, because I think the 4th phase discussion will lend well to the information that we're going to talk about during our discussion on the 3rd planning phase. So let's talk a little bit about how my strategy is to create a stepwise business plan. In no way is this comprehensive. There are going to be details that I'm not going to talk about here, and those are details that you need to think about as you start to work on this business. But I hope that the details I do include will help you to have a catalyst to get the rest of that stuff going. So I like to break my business plans up into 2 sections and subsections under those. The first section is going to be projects. There's likely going to be more than one project going on in your business at a time. The second part of the business plan under each project is going to be steps. And it's important, in my opinion, to break them up as steps and not items, because our brains are wired to execute on steps, not items. So let's get into that first part, the project, and I'm going to discuss a little bit about what I do when I start thinking about how to conceptualize a product in my plan. So when you sit down to think about what the first project is you're going to list in your business plan, I think the very first thing you should do is have a mission statement or a goal for that project. It's so easy to chase shiny objects, but making sure that each project you embark on has a specific goal, and that goal aligns with your goals for your business and for your life, is key. And that's going to keep you from getting sidetracked and going here, going there, and not focusing on what really matters to you, to your goals, and to your business. So that's the first thing. You got to have a mission statement or a goal or something to that effect. A statement of, why am I doing this project? And by the end of it, what do I hope to have? The second thing you're going to do when you outline a project is you're going to just start by doing a brain dump. You're going to think of things like, what do I need? Items that you're going to need in order to successfully complete this goal. Things like relationships, education, skills, funding, suppliers. Maybe you need mentors, whatever you're going to need to make this project happen. That is going to get your mind ready to think about what steps you need to put in place to get this project done. So in summary, when you think about a project for your business plan, you're first going to want to make sure that your purpose and goal is clear. What do you want to glean from this project? And the second thing you're going to want to do is do a brain dump. List every little nitty-gritty thing you think you're going to need, whether it be concrete, monetary, or educational. Everything that you think you're going to need in order to successfully complete that project. Now I'd like to take a minute to talk about the steps within each project. Steps can either be numbered or not numbered. Sometimes it may be helpful for them not to be numbered because some of them may need to be done simultaneously, and some of them may need to be done not just by you, but by other members of your team. So numbering them can be helpful sometimes to get you started so that you don't feel so overwhelmed, but other times not numbering them can be useful in cases where you need flexibility. So there are 4 parts to each step that we're going to talk about. The first one is similar to the projects. Within each step, you want to have a purpose for doing that step. Don't waste time on steps that don't have a purpose. You should be able to clearly write in 1 sentence or 2 sentences what the purpose of that step is. I'll give some examples of this later on when I do a short example of a business plan for my biotechnology company. The next part of each step that you're going to want to include is a completion date. Now, this is something that I've found hard for me as an entrepreneur coming out of the university, is that in university, I have specific assignments that need to be done at specific days and times. Whereas in my business, there's no due date. Some things, especially legal questions, have like, if it's not done by this date, you're going to lose protection of a technology or something like that. But for the most part, it just needs to be done. And sometimes it even needs to be done before the next thing can get done. So I think that it can be useful to set a due date for the completion of this step within the project. This will get you out of bed every morning and say, you know what? I know that today I'm supposed to have finished step 2. So let me get out of bed and do it. Otherwise, you might just feel a sense of, it'll get done eventually, and feel the need to procrastinate. The second thing, or I should say the third thing that you're going to want to have within each step is assorted. So that means that it's going to depend on what the step is for you. For me, oftentimes it's a cost-benefit analysis. Maybe it's a list of ideas on who I could reach out to, or ideas of, where I need to go to look for the answer to completing that step. This is where I think it's important to leave it a little bit open to you as the entrepreneur. You know what information is going to spur you to action on getting that step completed. But I do think it's important to have some supporting information. So that's why I leave this kind of assorted column or sub point within each step of my business plan. The fourth thing, and the most important thing you're going to want to have within each step of your business plan, is action items. Now, some steps are going to be easier to create action items for than others, but it's still important to have those action items. If the step is reach out to clients, as part of your sales process, then maybe the action item is tomorrow, or by whatever your completion date is, I'm going to reach out to 50 potential clients on social media. I'm not sure what the action item is going to be for you for each step, but it should be something that is very, very clear that you can execute on. The more specific, the better. When you wake up in the morning and you don't feel motivated to get to work, there should be no guesswork. It should be, I know what's due today and I know exactly what I need to do to get started. Now, you may be asking yourself, what if you don't know what specific action items you need to do to complete that step? Well, you need to find out what action items you can do. But guess what? Finding out is an action item. So when you have a step where you're like, I'm not sure whether I need to reach out to the city council to get approval or to the state government to get approval for this project, that can be an action item. Go to the city and state websites and find out which government organization you need to go to for approval. In that manner, you can have no guesswork. There's always going to be an action item to each step or multiple action items. That's going to get you out of bed in the morning. That's going to motivate you. That's going to make you feel like each part of your business plan is executable. It's able to be executed on in a digestible way. You're not going to feel as much like that explorer in the dense foliage stuck without a good map. This might be a good time to mention that within the action items of each step, you're not going to be doing every single one of those. Rarely does an entrepreneur succeed on his or her own. So it's going to be really important for you to make sure that in your action items, some of them are going to be things that you are going to do, but some of them are going to be things that other people on your team are going to be doing. But as part of your action items, you can include a follow-up with your team or a meeting with your team or just an email to check on them. That way, even if a project is not specifically delegated to you, you know who it's delegated to, and it doesn't slip your mind. It's in your business plan on your personal action items as at least something to check up on with your team members. So that's just another tidbit about the steps and the action items within those steps. Hopefully that was helpful. So let's get into a review of what your business plan should look like. And then once we finish the review, I'm going to get into a little bit of a specific example of what my business plan looks like. It's not going to be complete. There's going to be some information omitted, but it's going to include these basic principles, and it may help you visualize how this is all going to come together. So our business plan is going to consist of projects, and within each project, there's going to be several steps. And within the project, there's going to be some items to help clarify what that project is. And within each step, there's going to be some items to clarify what that project is. By putting a plan like this together, we're not just going at this business gung-ho all the way, fighting through it. I'll figure it out when I get there. We're making sure that we have a plan and a plan that we can execute on. This is going to help cut down on the tendency we have to feel a little bit stuck, feel like we're not getting the traction that we need. Regrettably, as I have prepared for this small demonstration of how my business plan is going with my company, the sun has set, so we are fighting with significantly decreased lighting in this room. Hopefully that doesn't bother you guys too much, as most of this picture is going to be in a small window, and we're going to focus on what is on my screen right now. So I haven't written out every single step and every single project for what my business plan entails right now, but I've written out a framework, and the first couple of steps have been completed. So you guys can see when I'm thinking about making a business plan for myself, how does it typically look? So we're going to start here with the name of the branch of the company I'm working with, which is called Staff and Serpent. It's our skincare branch. And we're going to start out talking about this project, Easy for Cold Sores. We recently discovered a natural and generally recognized as safe molecule that we have since patented for this use. and it's effective on cold sores from some preliminary tests that we've done. So I'm going to make a business plan on how our company is going to bring this to market. So obviously, here's the project, easy for cold sores. The desired outcome is that we will reach a sales volume of 5,000 units annually for this cold sore medication. Make your desired outcome something that you can work towards, something concrete, even though there's going to be a lot of reasons why you're going to be embarking on a specific project. Here's kind of the brain dump I did under the what we need category. We need funding, market and product development partner / employee, help and advice from our dermatologist friend that we have, some lab data, a website, social media presence, manufacturing, packaging, branding, distribution channels. This really was just like vomit. Everything that you can possibly think of. And you may come back to this throughout the day. Oh man, holy cow, I realize that we're going to need that. You may have ChatGPT do some research for this for you. You got to be careful with ChatGPT not to give it anything that is supposed to be confidential, trade secrets, intellectual property, stuff like that. But outside of that, it can be great for planning this sort of thing. So that's kind of the brain dump I did. Is this complete? Is this where it's going to stand? No, absolutely not. It's going to be updated as time goes on. Things are going to change, morph, and they should in a business plan. So that brings us here to step A. And again, we're going to start with a purpose. The purpose is to acquire the information we need to approach a formulation lab and to assess the viability of a cold sore treatment in our business. So that's both scientific and market viability. Obviously, completion date, this step should be completed by November 3rd. So that gives me a few days. And then here for the, kind of assorted or, specific to this step section, I just decided to put some questions that I know I need to answer. That's what the research phase is for. So then that brings us to action items. What are the action items? Well, it's pretty straightforward for this one. Answer each question as listed above and make a slideshow with the information to be referenced later. Talk with unnamed mentor. Obviously, I have a specific mentor's name in mind, and you should put that down in your plans, but for his privacy, I'm not going to put his name there. To discuss this idea, to pick his brain, what does he think about it? And then meet with Dr. Mizrahi to get answers to his sections that I'm going to assign to him. So that's a really simple example of what a step could look like. It's not gonna look like this with every step that you guys do, but this is one example. Step B, we can talk about. This is lab testing. And I've actually went ahead and dedicated this whole step to Dr. Mizrahi because he's our chief scientific officer, and this is going to be his field of strength. But same thing, we've got a purpose: to acquire data that supports our treatment as scientifically viable. Completion by November 5th, 2024. Now, this completion date is for the action items. We're not going to be able to get all of the data that we need, all of the experiments done, all of the teams organized to do this by November 5th. But the action items, we'll skip down there for a second. The action items say to answer each of the questions that we have, preliminary questions with the help of Dr. Mizrahi, and then update the plan once we have sufficient information. So by November 5th, we're going to have an updated plan of what it's going to take to do this. So, is there an experiment out there that can mimic cold sores? If so, what will it entail? What will it cost? How long will it take? Can we do it at BYU? Is that something that they're going to be comfortable with? Does the lab need additional funding to get it done? All of these things are questions that I'm going to have to answer before we get this stuff done. Well, and more specifically, my business partner, Dr. Mizrahi, is going to have to answer before we jump into more laboratory testing. Now, I've just filled out these two steps for the sake of making this video somewhat brief, but it's really interesting to think about what other steps are going to come after that, and I'm going to have to fill that out in my business plan. There's going to be manufacturing legwork, find a product development partner or employee, finding an investor that's going to be able to fund this, or multiple investors, or another funding strategy, I suppose. See, that's another idea I can put in my plan. Marketing, manufacturing, distribution, all of these things are going to need to happen. And each of those steps should be outlined just like these: a purpose, a completion date, and then some assorted information that's going to be useful to you as the entrepreneur, and then actionable items. So this is a little summary of what my business plan is going to look like for the skincare branch of my company. Is your business plan going to look exactly like this? I don't think so. But if it looks somewhat like this, I think it's going to be helpful for you as an entrepreneur to digest your business a little bit easier. I've had so much experience getting excited about a business, maybe even buying a course from an influencer that I really like, and just diving in and then feeling completely paralyzed with anxiety and fear and doubt and, burnout and lack of certainty on what to do. This for me is part of the solution to make that, to make it a little bit more productive. So like I said during the first portion of this video, I want to talk about that fourth step in the course of running a business, and that's the execution. Now, we already talked a lot about execution, especially with actionable items when we talked about making the business plan. But I wanted to take a moment to discuss something specific, and that's that it's going to get extremely tough. It's going to get extremely tough. Your business plan, you're going to recognize, is going to not be sufficient. You're going to have mentors and advisors tell you how much you've missed. And not that they're putting you down, but letting you know where the gaps are in your plan. You're going to feel discouraged, even if you do have a good plan. So when you start on this business plan, don't get discouraged. If it's something you really, really want to do, cling to that. If you have feelings or experiences that really make you feel convicted that this is something that you are meant to do or that you want to do, write those things down so you can come back to them when the going gets tough. Really, you just want to make sure that you understand it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. Things are going to go wrong. People are going to say no. That's why for the little icon for this part of the process, I put an anvil with a blacksmith forging something, because it really, really is gonna get hot and it's gonna get hard, and you're gonna have to hit with that hammer very, very hard for a very long period of time, and you may end up scrapping a lot of pieces of steel that didn't turn out the way you wanted them to. But the good news is that if you have a plan, it's going to make it much easier to work through those hard times. Good luck on all of your endeavors. I really, really hope that this business plan, this method of making a business plan, is going to help you feel a lot more motivated and a lot more directional in your business endeavors. Good luck with everything you're doing. Godspeed, and we'll see you in the next video.